Well, you ask what I think of Neal Donald Welch on a good day for me to answer that question. I don't think very much of him. I mean, certainly not as a theologian. I think he's a very interesting fiction writer. I think, which is exactly what his Conversations with God is all about. He tries to call it faction rather than fiction, or at least someone attempted to do that. It's a book that he wrote where he has conversations with God, and God's voice is sometimes that of a male, sometimes of a female. Ed Asner, I think, portrayed one of the male voice of God in a recording of it. And I listened and read it. I read it and I listened to it as sort of as an adventure in fiction, not as an excursion in my spiritual life. And a lot of people are doing exactly that. In fact, just recently, I saw on Facebook where a Unity minister posted a quote by Neal Donald Welch. Let's see, I've got it here somewhere. Nothing from yesterday has to affect who you are today. Well, of course it does. Everything from yesterday has to affect who you are today. That's how we grow. That's how we become. That's how history happens. That's how evolution occurred. Because everything that happened yesterday and the day before and the day before and 12 billion years ago affects what is happening today. The Big Bang is still going on. Hasn't stopped yet. And right now, what we know and see and understand is a moment in the process of that Big Bang. We are to it, as human beings, as bipedal, upright, carbon-based thinking creatures, we are to the Big Bang what the apple is to the tree, or what it does. And what we do affects everything that happens that we do the next day and the day after that into our future. So to make a comment like nothing from yesterday has to affect who you are today is just metaphysical New Age woo-woo. And why people even listen to this nonsense as though it actually could help them live a better life is utterly beyond me. Now, I think Conversations with God is a great piece of fiction. Just like I think the Book of Mormon is a great piece of fiction, and taken as a piece of literature, it's a good read. But it has nothing at all, neither of those books have anything at all to do with our development as spiritual creatures on a quest to identify and know intimately the source of our being. Whether that source is the old man with the beard upstairs or a divine animating principle. So what do I think of Neal Donald Welch? Well, I think that when ministers, even New Age ministers from the Unity Church, post something he has said, it means that they are investing what they teach and how they present the truth of the universe, cloaked in the language of Neal Donald Welch. And it shows they're not theologians. They're embarrassing. Neal Donald Welch, unfortunately, doesn't just say that he's writing fiction. And here's where the problem comes. If he said this is a fiction I wrote, a novel that I wrote, I think it would have been just as popular. Maybe not. It certainly sold well in New Age circles. But to insist that it is a spiritual message and that he is somehow a vehicle for that message makes him an opportunist, in the worst sense of that word. And because what he really is an entertainer, like Mark Twain or any other number of people who write good fiction or make good movies or write great plays or music or whatever it is. It's entertainment. It's not spiritual philosophy. It's not anything but entertainment. And it makes for him to pretend that this is somehow spiritual food for a starving people makes him an opportunist. And people who've really studied theology, people who've gone out and done the real work, gone to a seminary and thought and considered and debated and made their way through classic literature, Eastern and Western, are going to take a look at Neal Donal Welch's stuff much the way they look at the Course in Miracles, which claims to have been a book that was dictated by Jesus Christ. And what's funny is the people who believe that usually don't take much stock in the New Testament. Very strange. So this stuff it's nonsense. It's stuff for people who don't want to take the time to really burn the midnight oil and really become educated. They want something that sounds flashy and makes them seem to have purpose, and something where they don't really have to think very much, because if they did think very much, they wouldn't take Neal Donal Welch or the Course in Miracles very seriously.